Nihon no minasan konnichiwa. Carl Azus des. That is a warm welcome to our new viewers in Japan. Thank you for tuning in to CNN Student News.
We're going to survive. The building is destroyed, but the church is alive, and we're going to come back and we're going to rebuild. The weather's not going to stop us.
That church, just one of more than 100 buildings damaged or destroyed by severe weather in Mississippi. Officials say more than 20 people were injured by the storms, which included at least 2 confirmed tornadoes. The National Weather Service says the damage caused in Simpson County, where that church was destroyed, was caused by an EF3 tornado, which can produce winds of 136 to 165 miles per hour. Mississippi's governor has declared a state of emergency in several counties, and that allows state resources to take part in the recovery efforts.
Well, here's kind of what we're looking at. We have our sandbag dike that stretches basically from this neighbor's fence, goes all through here, and you can see kind of curves back there behind the trees, and people just bring in bag after bag after bag after bag.
And this is why. Floodwaters rising in North Dakota. The mayor of Fargo says the city is in uncharted territory, and officials are working to raise those sandbag levels high enough to face the increasing water levels. Volunteers have turned out in huge numbers to help prepare against the severe weather.
See if you can ID me. I'm a country that's home to more than 111 million people. The vast majority of my residents speak Spanish. My current president is Felipe Calderón. I'm Mexico, and I declared my independence from Spain in 1810.
Nearly 200 years later, drug violence is a huge issue in that country. It's blamed for the deaths of 6,500 people last year alone. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton says that the U.S. shares some of the blame for the ongoing violence and for the drug trade taking place between the neighboring countries. Secretary Clinton visited Mexico this week. Jill Doherty reports on the trip.
On her first day in Mexico, Secretary Clinton focused on drug violence along the U.S.-Mexican border, praising the Mexican President Felipe Calderón for what she called his courage in fighting the drug cartels, saying that the U.S. would help as much as possible with law enforcement personnel and also with equipment. She said there would be an extra $80 million for Black Hawk helicopters that could be used by Mexico along the border. And then finally saying that Mexico and the United States have a shared responsibility in this violence, arguing that U.S. drug use, what she called the insatiable demand by Americans for drugs, is fueling this violence.
Obviously, our demand for drugs is what motivates these drug gangs. I mean, if they didn't think they were going to make a bunch of money across the border, they'd go into another line of work. And so we do share responsibility for the security challenges facing the Mexican people.
Secretary Clinton will be focusing on broader aspects of the relationship. She'll be in the industrial city of Monterrey, meeting with students. She'll have a roundtable with business leaders and also visit a clean energy plant. This is all part of her message that the overall relationship should not be overshadowed just by the drug issue. Jill Doherty, CNN, Mexico City.
Shifting from international politics to national pollen. With the start of spring comes some fun, the start of springtime allergies, and that is bad for millions of seasonal sufferers. The biggest blame for the sneezing, coughing, and running noses goes to pollen, tree spores that are spread by the wind. Judy Fortin checks in with some tips on avoiding allergy attacks.
Opening a window in the springtime can be risky for Sarah Sanders. She suffers from severe allergies to pollen.
We just make sure that the windows are closed and very well sealed.
That's not the only step Sarah took to allergy-proof her house. She removed most of the carpeting and installed a state-of-the-art air filtering system. Dr. Alpin Patel, an allergist with the Emory University School of Medicine, says there are other ways to protect yourself during allergy season.
Showering or bathing at night, basically taking the pollen off your body or your hair. Limiting outdoor activities for those who suffer from severe springtime allergies. That includes recreational activities, hobbies like gardening, playing outside, working outside.
Patel says if that doesn't work, see a doctor.
We usually recommend taking an antihistamine or an antihistamine decongestant, some of which are now available over the counter.
Patel also recommends keeping your pets clean and out of the bedroom. Pollen can get into their thick coats and make it difficult to keep allergy symptoms at bay.
Today's shout out goes out to Mrs. Thwaite's government class at West Ottawa High School in Holland, Michigan, who was the first female vice presidential candidate from a major U.S. political party. Was it Sarah Palin, Geraldine Ferraro, Shirley Chisholm, or Susan B. Anthony? You've got 3 seconds. Go! In 1984, Geraldine Ferraro was nominated for vice president by the Democratic Party. That's your answer, and that's your shout out.
Ferraro and her running mate didn't win that election, but she did make history with her nomination, and she is far from the only famous female in American politics. As we wrap up our coverage of Women's History Month, we're taking a look at some of the accomplishments of a few political trailblazers from the 21st century.
When Hillary Clinton won New York's U.S. Senate seat in 2000, she became the only First Lady to hold an elected office, and for about 3 weeks in January 2001, she held both positions. In 1993, as head of the President's Task Force on Healthcare Reform, Clinton became the only First Lady ever to have an office in the West Wing of the White House. She is the first and only First Lady to run for president. Clinton currently serves in President Barack Obama's cabinet as the U.S. Secretary of State. Clinton received the torch from Condoleezza Rice, who served as the 66th U.S. Secretary of State. She was sworn in as the first African-American woman to hold the position in 2005. Before that post, Rice was the first woman to work as the National Security Advisor to President George W. Bush. After graduating from Stanford University, she became a professor and appointed provost of the university. The first woman, the first African-American, and the youngest person to hold that office. Alaskan Governor Sarah Palin became the first woman to run for vice president in the Republican Party in 2008. Palin is the youngest and only female governor of America's largest state, Alaska. Before serving as governor, she was the mayor of Wasilla, the state's fourth largest city. Palin is considered by many in the GOP to be among the top choices for the 2012 Republican presidential candidacy. This year, President Barack Obama and his wife, Michelle, became the first African-American president and First Lady in U.S. history. Mrs. Obama graduated magna cum laude from Princeton and obtained her law degree from Harvard in 1988. As First Lady, Mrs. Obama has pledged to support military families, help working women balance career and family, and encourage national service. Honoring achievements from political women of the 21st century this Women's History Month.
Facebook. Thousands of you have accounts, millions of people are on it, and so are we with the official CNN Student News Facebook page. And yes, we do update it regularly. We've got videos, we've got pictures, we've got fans. I think there are more than 5,400 of them, but we always welcome more. So if you get the chance to log on to Facebook, search for CNN Student News Official, we would be thrilled if you signed up. Well, finally today, a group of students are on track for a world record thanks to this pile of pennies. They laid the loot out on a 100-mile-long chain around a racetrack this week, and in order to get the record, every penny has to touch the one next to it. It took about 8.5 million coins to complete the task, making this project worth nearly $85,000. The money will go toward an after-school program. Student project that ends up helping schools, that makes a lot of sense. You guys have a great weekend. For CNN Student News, I'm Carl Azus.